happening online. People in line.
Look at that, she moved the chair further away from me.
That's what I think.
You never know, something like that.
That's right. You have to save a seat for a gift.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for everybody coming. I was actually a little concerned because I woke up myself late, forgetting that the time change. I don't know why don't they?
My watch said 8:30.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Deuteronomy 32. Did everybody have a chance to read this from last week? I know some of us did not. Just newly coming in, and some of us didn't.
You need a Bible?
Miss Benita, you get the prize.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay, that is quite all right. So this is we're gonna go through the first verses here. This chapter is so incredibly important, and it's such a dynamic chapter in the Bible that and it's interesting how small we were just talking about this, how small some of these how Moses dies, right? Or he's sent to die. And before we go into the angel and demon side of this, I want to talk about that for a moment, because the connection that we have with this story versus, if you guys remember when we were in Numbers, what was the story in Numbers? The king who called for Balaam,
Yep.
right? Ten Commandments, burning bush, having this deep connection with God. Moses is not allowed into the promised land. Why was he not allowed into the promised land?
He hit the rock when God said to speak to it, and he hit it, and he was mad.
Mm-hmm.
But
He
he did.
disobeyed.
He disobeyed.
Yep.
Now imagine your entire life's work coming down to, hey, you're not going to reach the goal that was laid out, right? And a lot of us go through that where we strive and strive and strive, and we just can't reach. We don't reach, and it's because it's not our time, right? Remember, our time is not our time. We are on God's time,
Right.
and God's ways are much larger than our ways, much bigger than our ways. We may not understand it, we may not know why, but we got to look back at Moses and think, oh my gosh, can you imagine that? I can't imagine sitting there going, man, you know what, God? I just spent 40 years, my entire life's work, and you're going to send me over to Moab? Don't you know what happened in Moab?
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. At the very end of this, that's the chapter. If we go into Deuteronomy 33, you see him giving basically all of his blessings on Israel and all the tribes, right? But let's go to the very beginning, and in chapter 32, and we're going to pick out a few verses in here that are going to drive the point of what the class is, right? The class is about angels and demons, right? And how influential they are in the Bible, and how when we speak about them, we have to realize that in almost every great story, here is the presence of these beings, these celestial beings that, as we all know, and as we've learned, are a higher life form than humans, more intelligent, right? They're immortal, and they've been around from the beginning. Angels. So if you know everything about an angel, you're going to know about a demon, right? They're smarter. They've been around longer. They know exactly, as I like to say, they are perfect in their hatred.
Yeah.
They are perfect at their job. They know their job better than you will ever know your job. We will never have that ability to know what they know. They've been around since the beginning, okay? So that's why it's so important that we focus on relying on God and his wisdom, because we're never going to have enough. We're never going to be in that place of knowing, okay? This chapter is, it starts off with the proclaiming as, and we're going to point out a couple of verses here. I'm sorry. Give ear, O heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. Let my teaching drop as the rain, my speech distill as the dew, as raindrops on the tender herb, and as showers on the grass. For I proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. He is the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are justice. A God of truth and without injustice, righteous and upright is he. So what are we doing? He's praising God at the beginning, right? He's establishing who God is. And then we go right into this discussion of we're comparing God with the Israelites, okay? With the people. They have corrupted themselves. They are not his children because of their blemish, a perverse and crooked generation. Do you thus deal with the Lord, O foolish and unwise people? Is he not your father who bought you? Has he not made you and established you? Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you, your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High divided their inheritance to the nations, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the children of Israel, for the Lord's portion and his people. Jacob is the place of his inheritance. Now, this is the verse that we were talking about last week, right? I don't think this is the correct translation of what I just said. The reason I say that is because the Hebrew discussed Genesis 6, and we talked about the sons of God and the daughters of men, right? The sons of God being the celestial beings, the angels that were thrown out of heaven, okay? What's very interesting is we're going to go back to this whole, the Bible ends where it begins. It begins where it ends. I don't know if you guys knew that. But Genesis and Revelation are interconnected. Because it ends where the angels have fallen, right? The dream and revelation that John has is Genesis 6 and the fall of the angels. Okay, this word I'm going to read from this this version. So verse 8, when the Most High gave the nations each their heritage, when he partitioned out the human race, he assigned the boundaries of nations according to the number of the children of God.
Yes, sir.
You have the children of God. And yours is the Jewish Bible, right? This is my point, is when you're speaking about this, when you're hearing these, sometimes the translations were done in a manner to make it to where it was easier for people to understand, right? Now we understand that the secrets of the Bible come. We learn the secrets of the Bible from where? The Holy Spirit, right? The secrets are hidden from people that don't have God in their heart, right?
Right.
Those secrets that I think this is one of those areas that it takes further investigation as you're reading, because recognizing that it's the same words as spoken in Genesis, children of God, and other areas where they're talking about angels, right? In this manner, children, the angels that they have dedicated each territory, which is what they're saying, right? According to the number of how many children of God.
Yeah.
Right, they're here.
How many? So let's diverge in that. Why do we think that when the Most High divided their inheritance to the nations, when He separated the sons of Adam, He set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of children of God? Well, how many nations are there? Are there the amount of nations as there are people?
No, there were more nations.
There's more.
Multitude of nations.
Well, the amount of nations and the amount of in Daniel, the prince of was what? Was he an angel or was he a?
See,
Well, the prince of Persia was a demon,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, demon. Yeah.
leader, spiritual leader, dark spiritual leader. Why does each nation have their own dark spiritual leader? Well, this realm, the physical realm, is the realm of Satan,
Yeah.
right? They were cast out of heaven to this realm, and this is where they live, right? So each nation has their own dark spirit running it,
Hmm.
right? That speaks to, no, that's a physical person. These are spiritual people. These are spiritual beings that are speaking into these people. That's why there's nothing good at the top. If somebody can find something good within politics, well, you should write a book, because there's
Very much good there.
because it's all under the same umbrella, right? So under the same leadership, truly. Now, how can we know that this is the separating with these demonic forces, that these are how these things have been separated? The Lord's portion, why would He say the Lord's portion?
because He's got the people that are listening. He's got the people that are following Him, His ways.
The Lord's portion
Mhm.
is His people. Jacob is the place of His inheritance, right?
Mhm.
So we're talking about the same lineage, the same line
Right.
that came all the way from Seth,
Yeah.
that went through Noah, right? That is through Jacob, right?
Mhm.
But it wouldn't, unless there was some depiction of, unless there was an idea that the other nations were not given to the sons of God, right? Which He wouldn't have to say the Lord's portion. They would all be His portion, right? Move on. We're gonna see how that really drives in. So in verse 10, in the desert He finds him, in the howling expanses of the wastelands He protects him, rears him, guards him as the pupil of His eye. Like an eagle watching its nest, hovering over its young, He spreads out His wings to hold him. He supports him on His pinions. Now this is really talking about God and how God protects,
Right.
and that if you are under Him, you are truly under Him, right?
Right.
Now, if we go back and we remember, as we discussed in Exodus, what was that? Those three verses in Exodus where it's and it would all be good, right? But we also, it's human nature. We do the same, and Paul even talks about those thorns. We go back to the same thorn. We go back to the same thing that caused us problems before it, right? And we keep trying to fix and try to do like we can control whatever it is, but we can't. So the Israelites are doing the same thing, right?
So people haven't changed really.
Well, people haven't changed because we still have inherently, because every single one of us are born into sin,
Right.
right? The only way we can change is not change. We can only be transformed,
Right.
right? But we can't change our human nature. This time, and at the beginning of this, when it starts talking about, hey, go talk to your elders. Remember that the verse, go talk to your elders, go talk to the people. Consider the years of many generations, ask your father, and he will show. Go back and talk to people who lived during, remember, they're saying go back and talk to them about what it was like when you had demigods. Talk to them when you had these physical angelic beings having sex with, celestial beings having sex with physical women and having babies who are demigods who, if this was not the case, you wouldn't have all of these Greek mythologies. You wouldn't have,
Right.
even today, we have movies upon movies about gods having sex with mortal people and having some super being, right? Having some superhuman, Thor, for example,
Yeah.
or, so, what's that?
Why does it say him?
Where?
It's a singular. He found him in a desert land. Is that referring to Jacob in verse 10?
Oh, Chen?
Yeah, he found him in a, it keeps saying him. Who's him? Such as
No, that's like,
Jacob's, like a,
Mine
he's,
says Chen.
yeah, he's speaking of people, like,
okay.
yeah, as an individual, as individual. Oh, no. Where he's saying in the desert, he finds him, and the howling expanse of the wasteland, he protects him. He's talking about Jacob, but he's speaking about that in a generality of his people.
Yeah, Jacob is like his point of contact.
Right.
Right.
Verse 12, Yahweh alone is his guide, no alien god, these spiritual beings being called.
Yeah.
Why would they be considered gods? Well, they brought something that people didn't have. Number one, they brought technology and secrets, right? That's one of the things that these spiritual beings that did, right? That was so bad is they brought, people can only learn so much so quickly. If they're given too much, so these spiritual beings, how much do you think the angels, and when I say angels, I'm also speaking of the fallen angels, how much do they know? Well, they know a whole lot more than we do.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for them to present themselves as God, right? Not to mention, they have powers that are supernatural powers. If you saw something coming down from the sky in a supernatural manner, what is your first thought?
Run away from it.
Well, or this is God.
Well, yeah.
Here's a bright light. Remember, Lucifer was the brightest star, right?
He was.
He was the most beautiful star. Don't you think he could appear to look like God in a manner of speaking?
Yeah.
And that's why the Israelites kept going back to making these graven images. Who are they making images of? They had these demons that were presenting themselves as gods, right? And so that's where God is going, hey, listen, it's, how much of that would we fall into if we were kept getting presented with supernatural beings that kept floating in front of us. He gives him the heights of the land to ride. He feeds him on the yield of the mountains. He gives him honey from the rock to taste and oil from the flinty crag. herds from the cattle, milk from the flock, and richness of the pasture, rams of Bashan's breed, the goats, the richness of the wheat kernel, fermented blood of the grape for drink. Jacob has eaten to his heart's content. Jeshurun, grown fat, has now lashed out. You have grown fat, gross, bloated. He has disowned the God who made him and dishonored the rock, his salvation, whose jealousy they aroused with foreigners, with things detestable they angered him. They sacrificed to demons who are not God, to gods hitherto unknown to them, to newcomers of yesterday whom their ancestors had never respected.
What version of the Bible are you reading?
That was like 14 through 17.
No,
Yeah.
version, is it King James New or what?
This
on
one-
your phone?
This one is the Catholic Bible.
Oh, no wonder, okay, because I'm doing King James and I went to different ones and it's not okay.
Yeah, and then in the New King James, which is this one, herds from the cattle, milk from the flock, with fat of lambs and rams, breed of Bashan and goats, with the choicest wheat and the drink wine. But Jeshurun grew fat and kicked, and you grew fat, you grew thick. To jealous demons, not new arrivals that your fathers did not fear. So this is very, as we go back to the beginning where we're talking about the chapter 8, and was this discussing and talking about gods at demons, or was it discussing children of Israel? They are very specific with what it is. These nations were divided amongst spiritual demons who basically were in charge of these countries, right? Did the people in those countries have the ability to trust God? Of course, right? But they were not the chosen people. They were not the. But we can see with the writings and specifically with verse 17, they sacrificed to demons, not to God, to gods they did not know, to new gods, new arrivals that your fathers did not fear. Now, why would this? Why is he saying go speak to them? Right there at the end, that your fathers did not fear. And you can't put two on that pedestal.
Yeah.
Right? Remember, fearing God is not,
Right.
we think it's a negative, right? But fearing God is not a negative. It is a reverence to take hold and drive you to your decision, taking you through that. And it's very, very applicable for us today. And if you go through this, you'll see how, excuse me, how God is I don't want to use the word jealous, but it is. He is jealous.
God is a
He is
jealous
jealous.
God. He
He's
doesn't
jealous.
want anybody else before him.
Right.
Yeah.
But we have to think also in our own lives. Are we not the same? He made us in his image.
Mhm.
Are we not the same with our spouses, our loved ones?
Yeah.
Jealousy is not necessarily a negative thing, right? It's and we ourselves, the Israelites provoked it, right? I've never yet met somebody that was somebody. So God